In this video, I wanted to see if I could beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokémon Renegade Platinum. Renegade Platinum takes Pokémon Platinum and dials the difficulty up to 11, reworking gym leaders' teams, adding new surprise boss battles, and improving the AI. The ROM does make this a fair challenge though, by giving you a ridiculous amount of really strong encounters. I'm gonna need every one of those strong encounters though, because in a Pokémon Nuzlocke, if a Pokémon faints, it's considered dead and must be released. I can also only catch the first encounter per area. The rest of the rules for this run are on screen now and in the description. To make this even more challenging, I've decided for this run, I'm not going to EV train my Pokemon, because you know, this wasn't going to be hard enough. I'm now going to do that YouTuber thing where I point out that only about 12% of all the people that watch my videos are subscribed, so I'd really appreciate it if you enjoy my content, consider subscribing, it's really appreciated. With that out of the way, let's jump right into this run and see if I can beat a hardcore Nuzlocke with Pokemon Renegade Platinum. First of all, we have starter choices, and I decide on Turtwig. I'm actually given both Piplup and Chimchar very shortly anyway, so this choice isn't super impactful. What is super impactful, however, is that a lot of Pokemon have the chance to have their hidden abilities. In the case of Turtwig, there's a chance he will have Shell Armor. Shell Armor would be super amazing, as it would mean little Agumon would be completely immune to critical hits, so of course he doesn't have it. Good start on the RNG front there. Our second encounter on this journey is an Eevee who our mum gives us, and that means I've got to start thinking about what super powerful evolution I want, as they have all been given buffs and all have their strengths and weaknesses. No Sylveon though, sorry Pixel. This is a good time to mention that this ROM hack gives you a lot of encounters, and I mean a lot. That means to avoid this video being 8 hours long, I'll be cutting any encounters I get but don't use. That means unfortunately a lot of Pokemon, like the Patamon, the Bidoof I catch at Lake Verity, are going to get cut. However, someone that isn't getting cut is the Chimchar I get from Professor Oak's lab, who I name Gabumon. I've also decided for this run that gift encounters count as my encounter for any given area, meaning I can't also keep the Piplup that Rowan tries to give me. He really didn't actually want any of the Pokemon in that briefcase, did he? Maybe he left it behind on purpose. Anyway, I'm really hoping Gabumon the Chimchar will have the ability Iron Fist, because it'll make his punches super strong. And I actually get lucky this time, unlike with Agumon. Past Sandgym Town, I can use Repels to give myself a 50-50 chance of getting a Growlithe who makes certain really hard fights later on in the game completely free. So I cross my fingers and my luck holds up, meaning I get to add Veemon to my ever-growing party. Once we make it to Jubilife, I pick up a Squirtle in the Pokemon Center, which I'm hoping will have Rain Dish, because once he evolves into a Blastoise, he'll have Drizzle, which is incredibly useful. But unfortunately, you can't win them all, and he ends up with Torrent instead. North of Jubilife, we catch a Geodude we name Terriermon, before we then have our first rival fight. Luckily, Terriermon is able to make quick work of Ty's entire team. With Ty out the way, we can head straight to Orberg City. On the way, we catch a few more encounters, a Cubone we name Tentomon, a Zubat we name Koromon, and a Ponyta we name Leomon. We then only have one more thing to do before we challenge the first gym. We could grab one of the Hoenn starters, who are all excellent, but there's an even better encounter I can grab in Orberg City. If we go into this random house, we can find Stephen Stone just chilling, and he gives us one of the best Pokemon in the game, a Beldum. Now Beldum has a chance to have Iron Fist, which would turn one of the best Pokemon in the game to the best Pokemon in the game. Unfortunately, Omnimon doesn't have Iron Fist, but it's still going to be an amazing Pokemon throughout this run. Now, as I mentioned earlier, all the gym leaders' teams have been completely reworked, and every single gym leader now has 6 Pokemon. Luckily for us, Rourke is more of the warm-up than anything. Because Rourke starts with a Nose Pass that only has an electric type attacking move, Terriermon is completely free to set up to max speed and defense and sweep this first gym. I don't really understand the Gen 4 AI enough to explain why he doesn't just switch, as Nose Pass literally can't attack, but I'm not going to complain. So Terriermon is able to get to +6 attack in both speed and defense, and from there it's a clean sweep. Nose Pass goes down to 2 Bulldozers, Rourke's own Geodude goes down to 2 Bulldozers, Onyx goes down to 2 Bulldozers, Larvitar survives a Bulldoze thanks to Focus Sash, but then goes down to a second Bulldoze as Rourke heals. It's then a case of taking down Bonsly with a single Bulldoze, and then Rock's ace Caranodos is also taken down by a single Bulldoze. Nice 3 first gym badge, good start to the run, but we've got a long way to go before we can become champions. To help us along the way, we get some much needed evolutions. Thanks to our new level cap of 26, Omnimon can evolve into Metang, Koromon can evolve into Crobat, and I have a choice of what evolution to evolve Gatomon into. I decide on Umbreon, as I don't get many dark types in the early game, and Umbreon with wish support is really useful. It's then off to Floroma Town to get one of the 3 Johto starters. I decide on Totodile, who in this game evolves to be a water dark type, and he gains the ability Intimidate, so it's going to be extremely useful. Then at Valley Windworks, I catch an Elekid who I name Beatamon. Elekid is one of my favourite Gen 2 Pokemon, so I'm excited to get to use him when he finally evolves at level 30. I can then go catch a Honey Tree encounter as Renegade Platinum Platinum has made Honey Tree Pokemon instant instead of the full day I would normally have to wait. There's a fair few good Pokemon I can get here, and I catch everybody's favourite baller Spaghetti, Tangela. When Chapmont evolves, he'll become an excellent physical wall, so I'm pretty happy with this find. It's then time for Commander Mars, and even with an upgraded team, this fight goes pretty smoothly. Unfortunately, for the sake of this video not being 8 hours long again, a lot of Team Galactic boss fights and some extra boss fights that this ROM adds do get cut for time. So if you're confused at why a certain fight doesn't make it into the video, assume it went well. We're then able to make it to Eternia City and carry on catching encounters. We find a Machop on Route 211 who we name Impmon, and then inside Mount Cornet I'm able to fish a Thebasap who we named Lunamon. Lunamon will be extremely useful as she's part Fairy type now. That's right, I said Fairy type. Renegade Platinum, on top of all the other changes, has added the Fairy type to this game, which originally wasn't introduced till Generation 6. We're also given early access to Route 216 where we can catch another amazing encounter, a Sneasel we name Numon. It's then time for the second gym, and this is a real step up from the first one. Gardenia's team is pretty strong, but her real threats are her Breloom that has Spore and the ability Technician, and on top of all of that, it's holding a muscle band. It's going to hit like a truck. Gardenia's other major threat is a Roserade that has really good coverage and really high special attack. Luckily, I've got some really strong counters to her team with Omnimon and Coromon, and I've also managed to get a Firestone now so Vemon can evolve into Arcanine. Let's do this. I start with Coromon and Gardenia starts with Bellossom. Coromon is able to start the fight with a really strong Aerial Ace that does just over half, but Bellossom then lands a Stun Spore. That's kind of annoying but expected, and luckily Coromon is able to avoid being paralysed on the next turn and get a KO with a second Aerial Ace. Then the Roserade comes out, and there's no way I'm risking Coromon to an Existensory here, so I switch into Omnimon who takes the hit like it's nothing. Omnimon then gets hit with a Magical Leaf that does a crazy amount of damage. This Roserade is a monster. Luckily, a Zen Headbutt is then able to bring Roserade low enough to where on the next turn, Omnimon is able to survive another Magical Leaf and then take down Roserade. Had I missed there or got crit, that could have gotten ugly fast, but we made it past Gardenia's ace. Third is Cherub, so I switch into Vemon who takes a weak Grass Knot on the switch. Gardenia then makes one of the biggest misplays I've ever seen in Pokemon and goes for a Sunny Day. Sunny Day has given my big Fire Puppy a massive boost in power, so after Cherub survives thanks to a Focus Sash, I decide to go for an Agility so I can hopefully sweep the rest of this fight. Cherub then goes down to a second Flame Wheel, Tangela then also goes down to a single Flame Wheel, Grottle suffers the same fate and goes down to a single Flame Wheel, last is Breloom who hits really hard with a priority Match Punch, but he also goes down to a single Flame Wheel. Did get really lucky in that fight but made it through with no issues. That's the second gym badge in Renegade Platinum down with no deaths. Can only go uphill from here, right? Before we can even think about heading to our next gym fight in Hearthelm City, I've got to go fight Jupiter. Before this, however, I decide to backtrack slightly to get an encounter in the old chateau. Inside, we can find a Rotom who has a really low catch rate, which is why I decided to wait until I had a slightly higher level cap. Luckily, it doesn't take too long before we were able to catch Rotom, who we name Octomon. Octomon is another fantastic encounter because in this game, after Jupiter, I actually get access to the Rotom items, meaning I can change Rotom's typing to whatever I want to. This means Octomon is a really versatile member of my party that can fit onto almost any team. Like Mars before her, even with an upgraded team, Jupiter proves to be fairly easy. As a reward for defeating Jupiter, we're able to run into Cynthia before we leave town, and she gives us a Togepi egg. Togekiss is often an amazing Pokemon, but with her added Fairy typing, she'll be an absolute monster. Can't wait to get to use Waymon. Next, we're able to revive a fossil on the way past Allberg Town, and we're actually given the option of any fossil Pokemon, as a man in Eternia City gave me all of the fossils. It's a toss-up between Aerodactyl or Bastiodon, and I decide the best defense is a good offense, so I go for Aerodactyl. Welcome to the team, Zeromon. Now, on Route 206, I find an amazing encounter, Gligar. I get extremely lucky with this Gligar because he has the ability Poison Heal, meaning if I poison her before a fight and then give her leftovers to hold, she'll recover a disgusting amount of HP per turn, making her one of the best walls in this game. We're then able to head to Hearthelm City, and on the way we have to fight Dawn. There's a number of Dawn fights throughout this game, but they're generally fairly easy, so she doesn't show up too much in this video. For the first fight, Lumineon takes down Pillow-Swine with a few Water Pulses, Clefable goes down to a few Iron Heads, from Omnimon, Prinplup goes down to a single Discharge, from Betamon, last is Lopunny, and here's where I make my first real mistake of the run. I switch into Coromon, who takes a lot from a Dizzy Punch, but luckily they don't get confused. I then outspeed and land a Super super effective aerial ace that just misses the KO, so Lopunny is able to hit back with another dizzy punch that very nearly KOs Coromon. Now I see the kill with aerial ace, and in my haste to end this fight, I completely forget Lopunny has quick attack, so I stare in disbelief as I lose my first Pokemon in Renegade Platinum to a very stupid mistake. Rest in peace Coromon, you deserved better. Now some of you have said my mistakes in the past are frustrating to watch, and if that's the case, well, you might want to look away because I'm not finished making mistakes yet. I decide to send out Betamon, who is the fastest Pokemon I have, and I'm expecting her to outspeed. Unfortunately though, she doesn't, and Lopunny is able to land a high jump kick and take out another of my Pokemon. Rest in peace Betamon, you never reached your full potential. I now do what I should have done last turn, which is switch into Omnimon, survive a high jump kick, and then KO with a Zen Headbutt. That was such a terrible way to lose two strong Pokemon. If I keep making mistakes in such a hard ROM hack, I will just lose. Can't let that throw me off though, because now we've got what is possibly one of the hardest gym fights in the game to deal with, Fantina. Fantina really does make the last two gyms feel like warm-ups, but luckily I've got a plan. I start the fight with Gatomon, and Fantina starts with Drift Blimp. Fantina likes to set up Calm Minds and Baton Pass onto Miss Magius, so if I lower Drift Blimp's special attack faster than it can raise it with Captivate, I actually pass on a -6 special attack to Miss Magius. Once Miss Magius is at -6, I'll be able to set up. This plan works perfectly, as eventually Drift Blimp Baton passes a -6 special attack onto Miss Magius. Perfect, I can now switch to Lilymon and start setting up. This plan is a bit risky because a crit Dazzling Gleam will 100% KO, but luckily I'm able to set up a sub, set up a single Swords Dance and Agility, and sweep Fantina's whole team. Miss Magius goes down to a crunch, Gengar goes down to a crunch, surprisingly Drift Blimp goes down to a crunch, and then Spiritomb comes out. I'm worried that +2 attack, Lilymon won't KO here, so I set up another sub as Spiritomb goes for a Dark Pulse. This allows me to get off another Swords Dance, and then KO on the next turn with another crunch. Fantina's down to our last two Pokemon, neither of which can survive at this point, so one crunch takes down Dusclops, and then a second crunch takes down Bayonetta. Third gym badge acquired. We might have lost two Pokemon very stupidly, but this run is still going a lot better than I thought it would. Here's hoping that carries on. It's actually only a short trip before I get to the third gym in Veilstone City, meaning I actually only get 3 new notable encounters. Firstly, I catch a Staravia, who I name Calasmon, and then I catch an adorable Pichu, who I name Mochimon. The best encounter I get by far though is a Mischievous I name Honeybeemon. Honey has been given the Fairy typing in this ROM hack and a buff to its stats, so he will be a monster. That's it for encounters before the 4th gym, meaning it's time for Maylene and our fighting types. Maylene's team is pretty stacked, but luckily Honey is almost in a perfect encounter to her. So I start with Lunamon, and Maylene starts with Medicham. Medicham is able to get off a fake out, but a single Moonblast from Lunamon is then able to take her down. Having Lunamon out baits Toxicroak, who would be a perfect Pokemon for Honey to set up on, but I want to lower its attack first. So I start switching between Calasmon, who has evolved into Staravia, and Vmon until Toxicroak is at -6 attack. I then send in Wailmon to get off a Yawn, and then I switch into Honey as Toxicroak falls asleep. Honey is then able to set up a sub and get off 2 Calm Minds before murdering Maylene's entire team. Toxicroak goes down to a Psychic, Lucario goes down to a Moonblast, Gallade also goes down to a Moonblast, and then Machamp goes down to a 3rd Moonblast. Infernape actually outspeeds and gets off a Fire Punch, but luckily I had a sub up, so Honey is able to take down the Fire Monkey with a Psychic. 4th gym down. Halfway through this game and things are going really smoothly. Almost too smoothly. Oh well, I'm sure that's just me overthinking things. Oh look, it's footage from a random Team Galactic fight. I'm sure nothing bad will happen to Gabumon here. So yes, I lost possibly my best Pokemon because I forgot about Aftermath. I'm as annoyed as you are, trust me. This is such a huge loss to the team, and I can't believe I made such a stupid mistake. Having only lost 3 Pokemon so far, only to stupid mistakes, I don't think I can beat myself up too much, but I'd be lying if I said that didn't hurt. Oh well, show must go on, and we've only got 2 more notable encounters before the next gym. Firstly, outside Pastoria City, on Route 213, we catch a Gastrodon we name Seadramon. Seadramon will be another excellent wall, so I'm excited to add him to the team. We also fish up a Magikarp we name Monimon. I don't think I even need to state how good Gyarados is, so let's move on straight to the next gym. Now Wake is extremely dangerous. Not only is his team stacked with powerful Pokemon, it's permanently raining. How this works, I don't know. Does he have the sprinklers on all the time? Did he remove the roof to his gym? Unsure. Anyway, most of the time the correct play is to shut down the this weather as soon as possible with Sunny Day, but I decide to try and be clever and use the weather to my advantage. If I can get off agilities with Monchimon, who is now a Raichu, I should be able to outspeed and spam 100% accurate thunders, which I'm pretty sure should guarantee me the win, right? So I start with Agumon, and Wake starts with Quagsire. I immediately go through a Stealth Rock to break Sharpedo's Focus Sash, and then Agumon has to take an Ice Punch, which luckily doesn't crit. I then switch into Lunamon on what I assume will be an Ice Punch, but surprisingly, Quagsire goes for Aqua Tail instead. I then switch into Wailmon on an Earthquake, and then Encore Wailmon into Earthquake, so Wailmon is completely safe. I then get off a Yawn. Right, from here I have to get off a Moonblast so that Monchimon can KO with a single Grass Knot. Easy enough, so I go for Moonblast, which crits KOing Quagsire. That was probably the most unlucky crit I've ever had because now my entire plan has been thrown off. I'm still going to try and stick to the plan though and still set up Raichu. It's just slightly scary doing it in front of the Gyarados. So I go through a Yawn as Gyarados sets up a Dragon Dance. Right, this is even more scary now. No way Raichu is surviving a boosted attack from this thing, but Wailmon might. So I stay in and get hit by an Aqua Tail and survive on 1 HP. Holy that was too close. I think I just had a heart attack. Wailmon survives though, meaning Gyarados falls asleep, and now I can switch in to Monchimon. Monchimon is then able to set up a substitute and get off 2 agilities while Gyarados stays asleep. Monchimon is then able to get off a Thunder for the KO, or not. Like I know Gyarados was holding a Berry, meaning it was only 2 times effective instead of 4, but still, you'd think a Raichu holding a Magnet landing a Thunder would have been enough for the KO. Because Gyarados survives, he's able to remove my sub with a Waterfall. Luckily, Wake only heals on the next turn, a second Thunder is enough for the KO. Right, I'm hoping for a decently clean sweep here. Flow's Tail is out next, and he goes down to a single Thunder. Fourth is Poliwrath, who goes down to a single Thunder. Oh, or he survives. Are you kidding me? You suck, Raichu. As punishment for sucking, Raichu goes down to a single Waterfall. I would pretend I'm upset, but I'm not. I'm annoyed, like honestly. Anyway, if nothing else, at least Monchimon was able to bring Poliwrath low enough to where Octomon is able to come in, set up the sun as Poliwrath gets paralyzed, and then take down the giant toad with a single Thunderbolt. Fourth is Ludicolo, so I go through a strong Thunderbolt that does just above half, and then Ludicolo hits back with an Energy Ball. Luckily, before the fight even started, I assumed Octomon might have to come in and possibly take a hit from this thing, so I equipped him with a Focus Sash. That means Octomon is able to survive and get off another Thunderbolt that unfortunately low rolls and just misses the KO. That means Ludicolo survives on what looks like 1 HP and is able to take down Octomon with a single Hydro Pump. Rest in peace Octomon, and like a certain other electric type, you'll be sorely missed. Luckily, Ludicolo was holding a Life Orb, so at least he takes himself out along with Octomon. Last is Sharpedo, and Lunamon can handle this thing pretty easily. So Lunamon tanks a Zen Headbutt and then takes down Sharpedo with a Moonblast. That was by far the messiest gym fight so far, but we still pulled through. It just cost us 2 of our Pokemon, one of which was kind of the massive loss. See if you can guess which. Moving on from that, we can make our way to Celestic Town, and unfortunately, disaster strikes again because of Black Belt Adam. Black Belt Adam is a and has a Machamp that survives on 1 HP after a critical hit wing attack from Ruimon. Of course, then he retaliates with a counter. I wish I could stop losing Pokemon to stupid shit now. Ruimon would have been one of the best tanks in this run, but unfortunately, I never really got a chance to use him. Rest in peace. At least, to make up for it, we get some really strong encounters. Firstly, on Route 220, we catch a Wingull we name Owlmon. Wingull is brilliant thanks to the ability Drizzle, as there are a number of tough weather fights coming up that Owlmon can just easily counter. Next, at Fungo Ironworks, we catch a Magneton who is really needed because all my electric types keep dying. Last encounter before the next gym is a Gabite. I go back and catch in Wayward Cave. Garchomp is obviously one of the best Pokemon in this game, hands down. It's about time I added Candamon to the team. On to the 6th gym leader, Byron, and I'll be completely honest, even Renegade Platinum can't make Byron difficult. Candamon is freely able to set up with Sword Stances and Stealth Rocks, while Bronzong sets up screens and Stealth Rocks. Then shockingly, a +6 attack Garchomp is able to sweep all of Byron's Pokemon. I love the fact that even Renegade Platinum can't stop Byron being a pushover. 6th gym down, 2 more to go. Before we can get to Snowpoint City though, we do have 2 more encounters. A Pillow-Swine I name Gamamon, and a Snorunt I name Aramon. Both of these encounters are really strong ice types, so I'm really excited to see what they can do. We're then ready to fight Candace and her ice types. I need to set up Stealth Rocks and Sunny Day in this fight, meaning I have to start with Omnimon. This is a tad risky as the Abomasnow Candace starts with knows Earthquake, but if I can pull off this risk, I should be in a really good position to win this fight. So I go through a Sunny Day and take take an Earthquake that luckily doesn't crit. I still need to not be crit one more time here for my plan to work, so I set up Stealth Rocks, but luckily Omnimon survives, thank god. I'm then able to send in Whalemon, who tanks a Wood Hammer on the switch. But now I know Abomasnow won't go for Earthquake on the next turn, so I send in Leomon. Remember Leomon, that Pokemon I caught before the first gym? Well, he's finally getting his time to shine, as she's able to outspeed and KO with a Sun Boosted Flame Wheel. That's actually all she does in this entire run, but you know, she helped. Second is Walrein, so I switch into Boltmon, who takes a hard Surf before hitting back with a Thunderbolt that KOs. Third for Candace is Mamoswine, meaning I can safely switch into Whalemon. With Whalemon out, I can lock Mamoswine into Earthquake and then land a Yawn. Mamoswine is then hit by a decently hard Moonblast as she falls asleep, and then I can switch into Numamon. Numamon is a bit of a beast as she's able to finish off the Mamoswine with a single Brick Break. She's then able to murder Candace's own Weavile with another Brick Break. Glaceon is next, and this thing can be a real pain. It has Snow Cloak, which raises its evasion in the hail, Bright Powder, which means I'm more likely to miss, and Double Team. Luckily, I've gotten rid of the hail, so hopefully I can KO this thing before it can get off too many double teams. Of course, Numamon lands her first Brick Break, but just misses the KO, and this means Glaceon is able to set up a double team. Gotta kill this thing fast, so just gotta hope and pray, and another Brick Break connects, thank god. Numamon is amazing. Last the Candace is Throstlass, who is outsped and one-shot with a single Night Slash. Overall, a pretty easy gym fight. Took a couple risks at the start, but it really paid off. One more gym badge to go, but we've got a lot of Team Galactic stuff to get through first. The first stage of stopping Team Galactic is raiding their HQ. Unfortunately, though, I'm rushing here, because normally this part of the game is super easy and takes forever. This confidence bites me hard though, as during the Cyrus fight, I lose Seadramon to a crit Dark Pulse from Cyrus's Houndoom. To make matters worse, I don't even add an extra Pokemon to my party for the Saturn fight right afterwards, and well, this happens. That's right, I lose one of my best Pokemon for no real reason at all. Rest in peace, Honeybeemon. You got us through the mid-game, and I'll never forget you. Luckily, this is a bit of a wake-up call, and I do slow down a bit here, but I'd lie if I said that loss didn't hurt. Eventually, we battle our way up Mount Cornet, and now we've got one of the craziest fights in Pokemon to deal with, a 12v12 battle. It's me and Ty versus Jupiter and Mars, and everybody has 6 Pokemon. This fight is a bit meta to prepare for, but fingers crossed we can pull through. Mars and Jupiter start with their Crobats, while I start with Boltmon and Ty starts with his Staraptor. A lucky crit from Staraptor takes down Crobat number 1, and then Bolton is able to take down the second with a single Thunderbolt. Next is Electivire and Gastrodon. I assume that as Staraptor is so low, that one of the attacks from either Gastro or Electivire will hit Staraptor and not my Pokemon, so I should be able to take a slight risk and send in Omnimon here. Of course, Ty then Brave Birds, which KOs Staraptor before it can take a hit from any of the 2 Pokemon I'm facing, but shockingly, Brave Bird one-shots Electivire, Barry putting in work. That means Omnimon just has to take an Earth Power, and Jesus, I got insanely lucky there that Electivire went down before he could get off an attack, because had he survived, I would have just lost one of my best Pokemon. I assume that both Mars and Jupiter will now attack Omnimon as they see the KO, so I go through a Protect. Shockingly, Yanmega actually goes through a Hurricane into Ty's Breloom. Luckily, it was holding a Focus Sash, meaning it's able to get off a Rock Tomb into Yanmega that KOs, while Gastrodon's Earth Power goes into my Protect. Then the first Bronzong comes out, so I switch into Chapmon. On the switch, Ty goes through a Bullet Seed and KOs Gastrodon. Jesus, Barry, I've got 1 KO so far and you've got 4. Showing me up here, Bronzong just goes for a Zen Headbutt but misses. Then the always scary Skunk comes out and I go through another Protect. Stuntank, however, targets Breloom, who goes down to a Gunk Shot from Stuntank. Ty then sends out his Infernape. I decide Chapmon will probably survive at least 1 hit here if a Gunk Shot lands, so I go through a knockoff into Bronzong. Infernape goes first and very nearly KOs Bronzong with a Flare Blitz, and Chapmon does get hit with a Gunk Shot, but she survives, meaning she's able to finish off the Bronzong with a single knockoff. Mars then sends out her Kangaskhan, and I'm pretty sure Chapmon will bait out both attacks here as she's so low after the Gunk Shot, so I go through another Protect. Kangaskhan goes for a Fake Out, meaning Infernape isn't able able to attack this turn, and Skunk Tank's attack goes into the Protect. As again I'm sure Skunk Tank will go for another Gunk Shot into Chapmon, I decide to switch into Monimon to get off an Intimidate. Tai decides to score another KO and takes down Kangaskhan in one shot with a close combat. Skunk Tank then lands another Gunk Shot, which doesn't do a lot, but of course it poisons. I then decide to go through another Protect, and Tai one-shots Perigly with a crit close combat. I love Tai for once. Skunk Tank does then KO Tai's Infernape with a Gunk Shot. I lost track of how many Pokemon Mars has lost, because it turns out she's actually now out of Pokemon, meaning it's a 2v1 as it's just Jupiter left to deal with. At this point, it's mostly just cleanup. I switch into Boltmon as Heracross lands a close combat that does a decent chunk. Skunk Tank then lands a Playrough into Heracross. It really is just cleanup from here though. Skunk Tank goes down to a Thunderbolt, Tangrowth goes down to a Flash Cannon and Playrough, Sableye goes down to a Thunderbolt and Playrough, and then Bronzong goes down to 2 Thunderbolts. Wow, Tai made that fight look easy. I was able to play very passively and keep my Pokemon alive with Protects, while Tai did most of the heavy lifting. Not going to complain though, thank you very much Tai. Now we've got Cyrus to deal with, and not only has his team had a serious buff from the base game, we also have to fight Dialga and Palkia in a double battle before we get to fight Cyrus. Luckily, I have a fairly straightforward plan for both of these fights. My plan for Palkia and Dialga is rather simple. If I can bait Dialga into using something that's not Flash Cannon as I switch into Waymon, I can then lock it in with Encore. If Dialga is locked in with Encore, Choice Specs Moonblast from Lunamon should be able to take down both dragons. So I start with Lunamon and Neomon. Because Neomon's special defense is so low, I'm fairly sure both dragons will attack him here, and Dialga won't go for Flash Cannon into Lunamon, which would mess up my plan. So I switch into Waymon and just pray this works, and my prediction is correct as Palkia goes for an Aura Sphere and Dialga goes for an Earth Power. Perfect, that means thanks to Choice Scarf, Waymon is able to lock Dialga into Earth Power, meaning Lunamon is able to freely fire off a Moonblast to take down Palkia, and then Lunamon is able to get off another Moonblast into Dialga before I'm forced to switch because of the nasty Earth Power, but luckily Waymon is able to come in and finish off the Dialga with another Moonblast. Easy. So glad my plan worked there. Luckily my plan for Cyrus is much simpler. Cyrus's team is stacked, but it does have one tiny weakness, rocks, and Cyrus has done something very silly, which is have his lead hold a Choice Band. This means I can bait out Cross Poison with Lunamon, who protects on the first turn. I can then switch into Nemon, who is completely immune to Cross Poison, set up a sub and 3 rock polishes, and then sweep Cyrus's whole team. Crobat, Gyarados, Honchkrow, Houndoom, Magneton, and Weavile all go down to Earthquakes and Rock Climbs. That was one fight that I was really worried about, and it turned out to be really straightforward. Gotta love it when there's such an easy out for a harder fight. Well, we're almost at the end of this long journey, and we've only got one last gym leader to deal with. Luckily, even with an amped up team, Volkner isn't too much of an issue. It's just a case of setting up. So I start with Boltmon, who is able to get up a light screen. I then switch into Lunamon, who is able to get off 3 Captivates into Jolteon to get him to -6 special attack. With Joltmon at -6, Candmon can come in, get off 6 Dragon Dances, and then sweep Volkner's entire team. All of Volkner's Pokemon go down to either Earthquakes or Dragon Claws. That's it, that's all the gym badges acquired in Renegade Platinum. Just gotta push through Victory Road and we're at the Elite Four. Now, I'd love to tell you that Victory Road goes very smoothly, with no issues, and we can immediately move on to start talking about team building, but unfortunately I'm rushing as I see the end in sight. The lessons of Honeybeemon and Seadramon have clearly been forgotten. I lose Gyarados to a head smash from Aggron, and to be honest, I'm shocked Aggron was able to survive considering Gyarados had a level advantage of 5. Like, I know Aggron is tanky, but Jesus, really? The mistakes don't end there though, because somehow Candmon fails to KO an Arcanine that had just used close combat and is taken down by the giant fire puppy. To top off my string of bad luck / misplays, the same fight I lose Candmon, a Crobat survives an Icicle Crash from Nuamon, and then lands a Cross Poison for the KO. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, losing 3 of my best attackers right before the Elite Four due to misplays kinda got me down a bit, but I'm still determined we can win this, just gotta build a team. That, unfortunately, is easier said than done. If you don't know, in Renegade Platinum, every single member of the Elite Four and Cynthia can have 4 different teams, and it's completely random which ones they have. That means not only do you have to prepare like normal for 5 fights, but each of those 5 fights can have 4 different teams. Now I'm going to be completely honest, I think team building for this is slightly beyond my abilities as a Nuzlocke, but hopefully I've built a decent enough team to get us through this. Here's what I decided on. Almon the Pelipper, who with Drizzle is a must bring, as Flint and Bertha both have weather teams. His typing also makes him a good pivot for ground and fire moves, which a lot of my team struggles with. Lunamon the Milotic, who is an excellent wall and whose fairy water typing pairs really well with my steel types. Chapmon the Tangrowth, an excellent bulky physical wall. Omnimon the Metagross, who is by far the best Pokemon I have left and is a complete monster. Boltmon the Magnum Zone, who is very bulky, has electric coverage, which my team is lacking, and is a steel type which works really well with Lunamon and Almon in terms of synergy. And lastly, I've decided to go with Aramon the Frostlass, who is a really strong special attacker and has Will-O-Wisp support. With this team, I'm hoping we can go all the way and take down Renegade's Platinum's Elite Four and Champion. Let's see how this goes. First up for this Elite Four is Aaron and his bug types. I don't have any fire types, but I'm hoping with 2 very strong steel types, I should be able to push through this. So I start with Boltmon, and Aaron starts with his Yang Mega. Yang Mega starts by landing a Bug Buzz that does more than I'm expecting if I'm honest, but Bolton is able to hit back with the Thunderbolt that one-shots. Second is Heracross, so I switch into Aramon, who is immune to the close combat that Heracross tries to land. Aramon then lands a Psychic that surprisingly just misses the KO. It doesn't matter because Heracross has a Choice Scarf, meaning it can only go for useless close combats. Another 2 Psychics are enough for the KO. Third is Sizzle, who is completely walled by Boltmon, so I switch into Boltmon, who easily tanks a Bullet Punch. I then protect for a turn to get some HP recovery with leftovers. It's then a case of setting up Reflect and getting off 2 Thunderbolts to the KO. Armaldo is Thorth, but this thing really doesn't scare me to be honest, so I switch into Lunamon on an Earthquake and then KO with a Surf. Easy. Fifth is the one real threat on Aaron's whole team. A Drapion with a scope lens, meaning that it really likes to crit. Aramon can outspeed thanks to Choice Scarf, but I need to get off some damage on this thing first. That means I'm going to have to risk 2 crits here, or I might already be looking at a loss. So I click Moonblast, and Lunamon doesn't get crit, thank god. That means she's able to get off some decent damage. And now I have to risk a second crit on the switch, and somehow Aramon survives despite getting crit. My luck held up. This means Aramon can come in, outspeed, and KO with a single Ice Beam. Last for Aaron is Thesperquin, who really can't touch Boltmon, so I switch in and get off 2 Thunderbolts to the KO. That's the first member of the Elite Four down. Had to take some really scary risks there. Let's try to avoid those in the next couple fights. Second up in this Elite Four is Bertha, and I'm hoping she won't be too scary. Now Bertha can either start with a Hippowdon or a Tyranitar as her lead, both of which set up Sandstorm. I can't lead with Pelipper though, because if Bertha starts with Hippowdon, Sandstorm will be set up after Rain. So instead I start with Boltmon. I'm hoping with Boltmon out, he should bait an Earthquake from either lead. Bertha starts with Tyranitar, which is perfect, as it will lock itself into Earthquake thanks to Choice Scarf. So I switch into Almon on an Earthquake, setting up the Rain. I then go through a Lethal boosted Surf for the one-shot. Second is Rhyperior, who threatens with Stone Edge. I decide my best bet is Chapmon, who dodges the Stone Edge on the switch. Chapmon is then able to KO with a single Giga Drain. Easy. Third for Bertha is Mamoswine, who obviously threatens with Icicle Crash. I want to burn this overgrown elephant with Aramon, but I need her to not take any damage on the switch, so I decide to switch through Boltmon, who tanks an Icicle Crash and then baits an Earthquake. Because I know Mamoswine will go for Earthquake here, I'm 3 to now send in Aramon, who is immune. Perfect. Now I have to risk a crit here, but I've given Aramon a Focus Sash just in case. I really need Will-O-Wisp to land though, or I could be in a bit of trouble. So I click Will-O-Wisp and it lands, thank god. With Mamoswine burn, I'm safe-ish to bring in Lunamon, who dodges a Stone Edge on the switch. I decide it's relatively safe to set up an Aqua Ring before KOing Mamoswine, and he punishes me by giving me a heart attack and critting. Did not like that. Luckily, leftovers and Aqua Ring recovery put me out of range of being KO'd by a second crit, so I can safely take another Earthquake and KO with a single Surf. Fourth for Bertha is Swampert, so I switch into Chapmon on an Earthquake, who then KOs with a Giga Drain. Thank god that thing didn't have any ice moves. Fifth is Dugtrio, who for some strange reason has Aerial Ace of all moves. Because of this, I really don't want to risk Chapmon, so I switch into Omnimon, who dodges a Stone Edge. Dugtrio, thanks to Choice Band, is now locked into Stone Edge, meaning Omnimon only has to tank 1 weak Stone Edge before KOing with a crit Iron Head. I know choice items should make Pokemon more threatening, but they actually make a lot of Pokemon a lot easier to deal with. Last for Bertha is Claydol, who after a couple scary Psychics is taken down by Almon Surfs. Second Elite Four member down, going well so far. That fight went pretty smoothly, and only really had to take one real risk on Will-O-Wisp landing, which overall isn't too bad. Third for this Elite Four is Flint, and I'm a bit worried about this fight, as though the half my team are weak to fire types. Fingers crossed this goes well. In the same way Bertha can start with the Weather Setter slower than Almon, Flint can sometimes start with Torkoal, so I need to start with Chapmon here. Turns out Flint is starting with Ninetales, so I immediately switch into Almon on a weak overheat. Ninetales then lands a Confuse Ray, but luckily Almon breaks through and lands a Surf for the one shot. Second is Flareon, and this fluffy little thing threatens with Wild Charge, and no one on my team can really take it very well. I decide that if I'm lucky, this might be a chance to set up with Omnimon, so I switch and luckily don't get crit. If I can survive one more hit here and get off the Rock Polish, I'll actually just win. So I click Rock Polish and Wild Charge doesn't crit, thank god. Omnimon at +2 speed is now 3 to completely butcher Flint's entire team. Flareon goes down to an Earthquake, Houndoom goes down to an Earthquake, Rapidash goes down to an Earthquake, fifth is Magmortar, and if you guessed he goes down to an Earthquake, you'd be correct. Last is Infernape, who also goes down to a final Earthquake. That went so much better than I thought it would. I wasn't planning to set up Sweep there, but I saw an opportunity and took it, and it really paid off. One more Elite Four member to go. Lucian is the last member of this Elite Four, and he's always super scary. Luckily, I've got some good resistances to some of his key threats, so let's go win this. Lucian decides to start with Hypno this time, and I start with Boltmon. All of Lucian's leads are annoying screen setters, so I decide my best bet is Toxic Stalling. Eventually, after many turns, Hypno goes down to toxic damage and a couple Thunderbolts. Second is Galeed, so I switch into Lunamon on a close combat. I don't know if Aramon will KO in one hit, so I decide to let Galeed get off some more close combats to lower its defenses first before attacking. So I switch into Boltmon on a Leaf Blade, and then back into Lunamon on a second close combat. I then switch into Boltmon on another Leaf Blade, but this time I switch into Aramon, who is immune to close combat. At -2 special defense, a single Shadow Ball is enough for the KO. Third is Bronzong, so I switch into Boltmon, who is immediately put to sleep with Hypnosis. Now, slight problem, when writing this script, I can't actually remember why I decided to switch into Boltmon and then just immediately switch Aramon back in. So let's pretend I had a really big brain plan at some point and it got ruined by sleep. With Aramon back out, I decide I'm going to have to take a risk and try and land a Will-O-Wisp. Will-O-Wisp connects, and then I watch as Slash Cannon lands, and we just barely survive, thank god. With Bronzong burned, it's much safer to bring in Omnimon on a second Flash Cannon, set up a light screen, and then bring in Chapmon, who eventually is able to KO with knockoffs. Fourth is Jinx, so I switch into Omnimon, who dodges a Blizzard. Omnimon then tanks a weak Petal Dance before KOing with an Iron Head. Easy. Second to last is Slowbro, who Chapmon can take down fairly easily, but Slowbro does threaten with Flamethrower. I'm pretty sure though, if I set up Lorraine with Almon first, Chapmon should probably survive a non-crit. So I switch into Almon and then switch into Chapmon on a really scary Psychic. I then protect through a turn to recover some HP, and then I go through a Giga Drain that just misses the KO. But luckily, Giga Drain heals Chapmon just enough to survive the second Psychic. Jesus, that was scary. But Chapmon survives, meaning on the next turn, a second Giga Drain is enough for the KO. Now last is Gardevoir, who Omnimon can KO, but I need to get him in freely, and that means someone's going to have to be sacrificed here. Unfortunately, the Pokemon I need the least at this point is Almon, so with a heavy heart, I switch into Almon and watch as Thunderbolt takes him out. Rest in peace Almon, your sacrifice will give us the win. Now Almon is down, Omnimon can come in, tank a Thunderbolt, and finish off Lucian's last Pokemon with a single Iron Head. I can't believe we made it through that whole Elite Four with only one death. That means it's champion time. We've come so far, lost so many friends, but now it's time to see if my 5 remaining Pokemon have what it takes to become champions. Now, most of the time, Cynthia leads with a Fairy type, so I lead with Omnimon. Of course, Cynthia picks the one that isn't a Fairy type, Spiritomb. This isn't too much of an issue, however, because I can just switch into Lunamon on a Dark Pulse and then KO with 2 Moonblasts. Good start. Second is Roserade, and I get incredibly lucky here. I decide to switch into Omnimon, who tanks the Leaf Storm fairly well, even if it does do a lot of damage. Omnimon then dodges a Sleep Powder and sets up a Light Screen. That dodge was huge, but what's even more huge is the fact that I take a risk and decide to go for Rock Polish, and Roserade misses another Sleep Powder. Wow, what is my luck? Thanks to those lucky dodges, Omnimon is now able to outspeed and KO with a single Zen Headbutt. Third is the ace of aces, Garchomp. Now, even with a Yachi Berry, Frostlass should be able to KO Garchomp if it's taken at least one decent hit. That's why I set up with Rock Polish earlier, as Omnimon can now outspeed and get some good damage in with Iron Head. It does however mean I'm gonna have to let Omnimon go down here. So with a heavy heart, I click Iron Head and Omnimon gets the flinch. You never cease to amaze me, Omnimon, but unfortunately I still have to let you go down here. I've had you since before the first gym, and giving up a Hoenn starter for you was by far the best choice I've made all run. You've been the MVP during this playthrough, and you've made so many tough fights possible. I click Iron Head for the final time, and Garchomp takes some good damage, but Cynthia's monster survives and lands an Earthquake that KOs Omnimon. Rest in peace, buddy. With Omnimon's sacrifice, Aramon is able to come in, outspeed, and KO with a crit Ice Beam. Didn't need the crit there, but not going to complain. Fourth is Lucario, who is actually pretty easy. I can switch into Bolton on a Meteor Mash, and I know Lucario is going to go through a high jump kick here, so I switch back into Aramon and watch as Lucario loses half his HP. I can do this again for a second time, and Lucario goes down. 2 more to go. Fifth is Togekiss, so with Aramon out, I decide to go through an Ice Beam. Unfortunately, Togekiss is stupidly tanky and survives, meaning he's able to land a Thunder Wave. Moonblast then does a lot to Aramon before she gets paralyzed, meaning she isn't able to take down Togekiss. I decide rather than losing Aramon here, I'd rather risk Boltmon, so I switch into Boltmon, who takes a lot from an Air Slash. Boltmon then survives the Moonblast before setting up a Light Screen. With Light Screen up, I decide to start trying to get the KO, and Togekiss barely survives the Thunderbolt, meaning Boltund has to take another Moonblast. Cynthia then heals on the next turn. This Togekiss will just not go down. Luckily, Boltmon is then able to bring Togekiss back into the red with 2 more Thunderbolts. Unfortunately though, I decide it's probably best to let Boltmon go down here instead of trying to switch. So I click Thunderbolt and watch as Cynthia's stupid fat airship KOs Boltmon. Rest in peace, Boltmon, you made it to the end, but electric types just clearly weren't destined to survive this run. Luckily, Lunamon is able to come in and finish off Togekiss with the Surf. 1 more Pokemon to go, and it's Cynthia's own Milotic. I don't really want Chapmon to take an Ice Beam to the face, so I decide to start wearing down Milotic with Lunamon. This takes literal years off my life, because Milotic has leftovers, but eventually Lunamon is able to bring this big fish to below half. I then decide to switch into Chapmon, who is immediately put to sleep. Great. Chapmon is then brought into the red with Ice Beams, but before he goes down, he wakes up and lands a Toxic. Thank God, this thing's now on a timer. Unfortunately, I decided it's best to make another sacrifice here and watch as my big ball of spaghetti is taken down by another Ice Beam. Rest in peace, Chapmon. Luckily, I'm able to stall a few more turns with Lunamon, and eventually Milotic does go down to Toxic, winning us the run. I honestly can't believe I actually beat Renegade Platinum on my first attempt. I was expecting a lot more pain, if I'm honest. Not to say this run was easy, far from it. I got lucky numerous times, but I think this ROM hack is great because while it's a challenge, it gives you so many great encounters to work with. 100% got my recommendation if you want to get into a hard Pokemon ROM hack. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to like if you did and subscribe for more content in the future. I'll see you all next time.